Further, in his practice of samadhi, the good person's mind is firm, unmoving, and proper, and can no longer be disturbed by demons. He can thoroughly investigate the origin of all categories of beings and contemplate the source of the subtle, fleeting, and constant fluctuation. But if he begins to speculate about the making of certain distinctions, he could fall into error with the four theories of finiteness. First, this person speculates that the origin of life flows and functions ceaselessly. He judges that the past and the future are finite and that the continuity of the mind is infinite. Second, as this person contemplates an interval of 80,000 aeons, he can see living beings, but earlier than 80,000 aeons is a time of stillness in which he cannot hear or see anything. He regards as infinite that time in which nothing is heard or seen, and as finite that interval in which living beings are seen to exist. Third, this person speculates that his own pervasive knowledge is infinite and that all other people appear within his awareness. And yet, since he himself has never perceived the nature of their awareness, he says they have not obtained an infinite mind but have only a finite one. Fourth, this person thoroughly investigates the formation skandha to the point that it becomes empty. Based on what he sees in his mind, he speculates that each and every living being in his given body is half living and half dead. From this, he concludes that everything in the world is half finite and half infinite. Because of these speculations about the finite and the infinite, he will fall into externalism and become confused about the body nature. This is the fourth external teaching which postulates finiteness. Further, in his practice of samadhi, the good person's mind is firm, unmoving, and proper, and can no longer be disturbed by demons. He can thoroughly investigate the origin of all categories of beings and contemplate the source of the subtle, fleeting, and constant fluctuation. But if he begins to speculate on what he knows and sees, he could fall into error with four distorted false theories, which are total speculation based on the sophistry of immortality. First, this person contemplates the source of transformations. Seeing the movement and flow, he says, there is change. Seeing the continuity, he says that there is constancy. Where he can perceive something, he says there is production. Where he cannot perceive anything, he says there is a destruction. He says that the unbroken continuity of causes is increasing and that the pauses within the continuity are decreasing. He says that the arising of all things is existence and that the perishing of all things is non-existence. The light of reason shows that his abdication of mind has led to inconsistent views. If someone comes to seek the Dharma, asking about its meaning, he replies, I am both alive and dead, both existent and non-existent, both increasing and decreasing. He always speaks in a confusing way, causing that person to forget what he was going to say. Second, this person attentively contemplates his mind and finds that everything is non-existent. He has a realization based on non-existence. When anyone comes to ask him questions, he replies with only one word. He only says no. Aside from saying no, he does not speak. Third, this person attentively contemplates his mind and finds that everything is existent. He has a realization based on existence. When anyone comes to ask him questions, he replies with only one word. He only says yes. Aside from saying yes, he does not speak. Fourth, this person perceives both existence and non-existence. Experiencing this branching, his mind becomes confused. When anyone comes to ask questions, he tells them, existence is also non-existence, but within non-existence there is no existence. It is the own sophistry and does not stand up under scrutiny. Because of these speculations, which are empty sophistries, he will fall into externalism and become confused about the body nature. This is the fifth external teaching, which postulates four distorted, false theories that are total speculation based on the sophistry of immortality. Further, in his practice of samadhi, the good person's mind is firm, unmoving, and proper, and can no longer be disturbed by demons. He can thoroughly investigate the origin of all categories of beings and contemplate the source of the subtle, fleeting, and constant fluctuation. But if he begins to speculate on the endless flow, he could fall into error with the confused idea that forms exist after death. He may strongly identify with his body and say that form is himself, or he may see himself as perfectly encompassing all wounds and say that he contains form, or he may perceive all external conditions as contingent upon himself and say that form belongs to him, or he may decide that he relies on the continuity of the formations skandha and say that he is within form. In all of these speculations, he says that forms exist after death. Expanding the idea, he comes up with 16 cases of the existence of forms. Then he may speculate that afflictions are always afflictions, and body is always body, and the two exist side by side without contradicting each other. Because of these speculations about what exists after death, he will fall into externalism and become confused about the body nature. This is the sixth external teaching, which postulates confused theories of the existence of forms after death in the realm of the five skandhas. Further, in his practice of samadhi, the good person's mind is firm, unmoving, and proper, and can no longer be disturbed by demons. He can thoroughly investigate the origin of all categories of beings and contemplate the source of the subtle, fleeting, and constant fluctuation. But if he begins to speculate on the skandhas of form, feeling, and thinking, which have already ended, he could fall into error with the confused idea that forms do not exist after death. Seeing that his form is gone, his physical shape seems to lack a cause. As he contemplates the absence of thought, there is nothing to which his mind can become attached. Knowing that his feelings are gone, he has no further involvements. Those skandhas have vanished. Although there is still some coming into being, there is no feeling or thought, and he concludes that he is like grass or wood. Since those qualities do not exist at present, how can there be any existence of forms after death? Because of his examinations and comparisons, he decides that after death there is no existence. Expanding the idea, he comes up with 8 cases of the non-existence of forms. From that, he may speculate that nirvana and cause and effect are all empty, that they are mere names and ultimately do not exist. Because of those speculations that forms do not exist after death, he will fall into externalism and become confused about the body nature. This is the 7th external teaching, which postulates confused theories of the non-existence of forms after death in the realm of the 5 skandhas. Further, in his practice of samadhi, the good person's mind is firm, unmoving, and proper, and can no longer be disturbed by demons. He can thoroughly investigate the origin of all categories of beings and contemplate the source of the subtle, fleeting, and constant fluctuation. In this state, where the skandha of formations remains, but the skandhas of feeling and thinking are gone, if he begins to speculate that there is both existence and non-existence, thus contradicting himself, he could fall into error with confused theories that deny both existence and non-existence after death. Regarding form, feeling, and thinking, he says that existence is not really existence. Within the flow of the formation skandha, he says that non-existence is not really non-existence. Considering back and forth in this way, he thoroughly investigates the realms of these skandhas and desires an eightfold negation of forms. No matter which skandha is mentioned, he says that after death, it neither exists nor does not exist. Further, because he speculates that all formations are changing in nature, an insight flashes through his mind, leading him to deny both existence and non-existence. He cannot determine what is unreal and what is real. Because of these speculations that deny both existence and non-existence after death, the future is murky to him and he cannot say anything about it. Therefore, he will fall into externalism and become confused about the body nature. This is the eighth external teaching which postulates confused theories that deny both existence and non-existence after death in the realm of the five skandhas. Further, in his practice of samadhi, the good person's mind is firm, unmoving, and proper, and can no longer be disturbed by demons. He can thoroughly investigate the origin of all categories of beings and contemplate the source of the subtle, fleeting, and constant fluctuation. But if he begins to speculate that there is no existence after death, he could fall into error with 7 theories of the cessation of existence. He may speculate that the body will cease to exist, or that when desire has ended, there is cessation of existence, or that after suffering has ended, there is a cessation of existence, or that when bliss reaches an ultimate point, there is a cessation of existence, or that when renunciation reaches an ultimate point, there is a cessation of existence. Considering back and forth in this way, he exhaustively investigates the limits of the 7 states and sees that they have already ceased to be and will not exist again. Because of these speculations that existence ceases after death, he will fall into externalism and become confused about the body nature. This is a 9th external teaching which postulates confused theories of the cessation of existence after death in the realm of the 5 skandhas. Further, in his practice of samadhi, the good person's mind is firm, unmoving, and proper, and can no longer be disturbed by demons. He can thoroughly investigate the origin of all categories of beings and contemplate the source of the subtle, fleeting, and constant fluctuation. But if he begins to speculate on existence after death, he could fall into error with 5 theories of nirvana. He may consider the heavens of the desired realm a true refuge because he contemplates their extensive brightness and longs for it. Or he may take refuge in the first dhyana because there his nature is free from worry. Or he may take refuge in the second dhyana because there his mind is free from suffering. Or he may take refuge in the third dhyana because he delights in its extreme joy. Or he may take refuge in the fourth dhyana, reasoning that suffering and bliss are both ended there, and that he will no longer undergo transmigration. These heavens are subject to outflows, but in his confusion he thinks that they are unconditioned. And he takes these 5 states of tranquility to be refuges of supreme purity. Considering back and forth in this way, he decides that these 5 states are ultimate. Because of these speculations about 5 kinds of immediate nirvana, he will fall into externalism and become confused about the Bodhi nature. This is a 10th external teaching which postulates confused theories of the 5 kinds of immediate nirvana in the realm of the 5 skandhas. Ananda. All 10 of these crazy explanations may occur in dhyana as one's mental effort interacts with the formation skandha. That is why these insights appear. Dull and confused living beings do not evaluate themselves. Encountering such situations, they mistake their confusion for understanding and say that they have become sages, thereby uttering a great lie. They will fall into the relentless hells. After my nirvana, all of you should pass on the Tathagata's teachings, transmitting and revealing them to those in the Dharma ending age, so that living beings everywhere can awaken to this truth. Do not let demons arise in their minds and cause them to commit grave offenses. Offer protection so that wrong views will be eradicated. Teach them to awaken to true principles in body and mind so that they do not stray off the unsurpassed path. Do not let them aspire to and be content with small attainments. You should become kings of the great enlightenment and serve as guides of purity. Ananda, when that good person, in cultivating samadhi, has put an end to the formation skandha, the subtle fleeting fluctuations, the deep, imperceptible pivotal source, and the common foundation from which all life in the world springs are suddenly obliterated. In the submerged network of the retributive karma of the Pudgala, the karmic resonances are interrupted. There is about to be a great illumination in the sky of nirvana. It is like gazing east at the corpse final crown to see the lights of dawn. The 6 sense faculties are empty and still. There is no further racing about. Inside and outside there is a profound brightness. He enters without entering, fathoming the source of life in the 12 categories of beings throughout the 10 directions. He can contemplate that source without being drawn into any of the categories. He has become identical with the realms of the 10 directions. The light does not fade, and what was hidden before is now revealed. This is the region of the consciousness skandha. If he has become identical with the beckoning masses, he may obliterate the individuality of the 6 gates and succeed in uniting and opening them. Seeing and hearing become linked so that they function interchangeably and purely. The words of the 10 directions, and his own body and mind are as bright and transparent as Vaidurya. This is the end of the consciousness skandha. This person can then transcend the turbidity of lifespans. Contemplating the cause of the consciousness skandha, one sees that the negation of existence and the negation of non-existence are both unreal, and that upside-down false thoughts are its source. Ananda, you should know that the good person has thoroughly seen the formation skandha as empty, and he must return consciousness to the source. He has ended production and destruction, but he has not yet perfected the subtle wonder of ultimate serenity. He can cause the individual sense faculties of his body to unite and open. He also has a pervasive awareness of all the categories of beings in the 10 directions. Since his awareness is pervasive, he can enter the perfect source, but If he regards what he is returning to as the cause of true permanence and interprets this as a supreme state, he will fall into the error of holding to that cause. Kapila, the Shankyayan, with his theory of returning to the truth of the unmanifested, will become his companion. Confused about the body of the Buddhas, he will lose his knowledge and understanding. This is the first state in which he concludes that there is a place to which to return based on the idea that there is something to attain. He strays far from perfect penetration and turns his back on the city of Nirvana, thus sowing the seeds of externalism. Further, Ananda, the good person, has thoroughly seen the formation skandha as empty. He has ended production and destruction, but he has not yet perfected the subtle wonder of ultimate serenity. He may regard that to which he is returning as his own body, and may see all beings in the 12 categories throughout space as flowing forth from his body. If he interprets this as a supreme state, he will fall into the error of maintaining that he has an ability which he does not really have. Maheshvara, who manifests his boundless body, will become his companion. Confused about the body of the Buddhas, he will lose his knowledge and understanding. This is the second state in which he draws conclusions about the workings of an ability based on idea that he has such an ability. He strays far from perfect penetration and turns his back on the city of Nirvana, thus sowing the seeds for being born in the heaven of great pride, where the self is considered all-pervading and perfect. Further, the good person has thoroughly seen the formation skandha as empty. He has ended production and destruction, but he has not yet perfected the subtle wonder of ultimate serenity. If he regards what he is returning to as a refuge, he will suspect that his body and mind come forth from there, and that all things throughout space in the 10 directions arise from there as well. He will explain that place from which all things issue forth is the truly permanent body, which is not subject to production and destruction. While still within production and destruction, he prematurely reckons that he abides in permanence. Since he is deluded about non-production, he is also confused about production and destruction. He is sunk in confusion. If he interprets this as a supreme state, he will fall into the error of taking what is not permanent to be permanent. He will speculate that the sovereign God Ishvaradeva is his companion. Confused about the body of the Buddhas, he will lose his knowledge and understanding. This is the third state in which he makes a false speculation based on the idea that there is a refuge. He strays far from perfect penetration and turns his back on the city of Nirvana, thus sowing the seeds of a distorted view of perfection.